Thanks, Chair. 2 days ago, the International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan announced that he was pursuing arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Minister for Defence Yoav Gallant. There's a range of war crimes, but one of the war crimes that he was seeking the arrest warrant for was for the crime of starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, and that is correct, in my opinion. It therefore is horrifying that the Israeli ambassador, the representative of a regime that is currently engaged in the war crime of starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, that a representative of this regime was invited to the National Famine Commemoration. It was a political decision to invite the representative of this regime because a political decision was made not to invite, for example, the Russian ambassador. I would like for you to explain to us how that is appropriate in any sense, to have, a representative of such a genocidal regime implementing starvation on the people of Gaza right now as we speak, present at a moment to commemorate the famine here. I think it's absolutely outrageous. It absolutely boggles the mind how that was, how that proceeded with. I welcome the recognition of the state of Palestine that the government is going to engage in. I think it is thanks to the movement from below. I think it was in the programme for government in the last government. It wasn't implemented because people power in this country have demanded it. But I do think it needs to be matched with actions against Israel. Very, very concrete thing. The Israeli ambassador has now been withdrawn for discussions. I think you should say that she is not welcome back. We don't want the Israeli ambassador back. I mean, the Irish ambassador to Israel is being summoned to meet with Netanyahu or the foreign minister or whatever. I just do not think we should be playing this game. We should say we do not. We are withdrawing. We are expelling the Israeli ambassador from Ireland, and that would also have enormous public support in this country.
Thank you, Deputy. There's no other questions. Taoiseach, please, to reply.
Well, look, thanks very much. So, look, the first thing I want to say, and I'm very conscious of this on a day like today, is that what happened on the 7th of October, and it is important to say this, was a horrific terrorist attack. It was a massacre of people. At a music festival. We've seen people that were killed, people that were assaulted, people that were raped, people that were taken hostage, children, including an Irish-Israeli girl. And we should never, ever, ever, ever forget that, brush over it or jump over it. The impact that had on the people of Israel, on their sense of security, should never be underestimated. Countries have a right to defend themselves, but what we have seen, and I've said this consistently for a very significant period of time, what we have seen has gone from anything like a right to defend itself to what looks like revenge, what has been a war on children, what has been catastrophic in terms of its impact on civilians, on civilian infrastructure, and now we are seeing people starving and in many ways being starved as a result of an inability or refusal to allow humanitarian aid access Gaza in any sort of way of scale that is required. I wanted us to recognise, along with coalition leaders and government today, the state of Palestine, because it is true it's been in programme for governments before, and the programme for governments have generally said, including this one, that it would be recognised as part of a peace process to bring about a two-state solution. But in many ways, that peace process or that sustainable, just peace seems further away than ever before. And we, in consultations with Spain and Norway and others, believed it was important to keep the destination of a two-state solution alive, that we would recognise it today to create some degree of positive momentum, but also some degree of hope, and I expect other countries to follow. Look, in relation to the borders, we've been clear that we recognise that the 1967 borders, but there will have to be a peace process. There will have to be a political process to bring about peace in the region. We're a long way from the time when the Oslo Accords took place, I think nearly 30 years ago. We need the violence to stop, we need an immediate ceasefire, we need hostages released unconditionally, we need humanitarian aid to flow, and we need a political process. And people on this island know better than most, and on these islands, that the only way you end violence and provide people with security and peace is ultimately through a political process. In relation to the Israeli ambassador's attendance at our National Day of Commemoration, I would rather than fixating on her attendance there, I was more concerned as to the message I delivered in her presence in relation to calling out clearly what I believe the actions of Israel in effectively bringing about starvation to people in Gaza, including children, and the devastating humanitarian consequences that that will have and is having.